computer. Okay, the recording is now in progress. So welcome everyone again, Hare Krishna, to our reading of the divine process of Krishna consciousness. We're reading from Sankalpa Kaumudi, and we are reading from page 139. For those who just joined, those who have the book. And I was just having a little recap and reading forward a little bit. It's describing the phenomena of something spiritual arising from something material. Yeah, we have a material body, we have material senses, and how and in what way that gives rise to spiritual emotion. Yeah? And that's the blessings essentially of the Guru, who gives the seed of bhakti. And so what we're doing is actually spiritual. So devotion, bhakti, samjayati, bhakti. Yeah. So bhakti gives rise to bhakti. So, and then Maharaj is analyzing that quite deeply. And this chapter is called Questioning the Definition Further. So questioning that process of sadhana and how it gives rise to something sublime, which is emotions in connection to Krishna, spiritual. All right. Now, that was what we've been describing up to now. What we'll be looking at going forward is the characteristics of how to distinguish or how to know what are the characteristics between a sadhana bhakta and a bhava bhakta. Yeah, because the activities are the same. So it's looking at that. So we're reading a little bit about that. So interesting discussion. All right. So that's where we've been, and this is where we're going. We'll probably see, we might finish this chapter today. The next chapter being chapter 9, the appearance of Bhava. So you'd have thought Maharaj would have already described that, which he has, but he's going into more wonderful details. Okay, we all ready on the ship to Bhava? So Sahachari Mother, you have your hand raised. You can kick us off, as they say. 139. Disintelligent question is relevant. It starts.
Great, my Prabhupada, Muli Prabhu.
Yeah, no, thank you. Namo Om Vishnu Vadaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Shmati Bhakti Vedanta Samti Namane. Namaste Sarasati Devi Gauravani Pachamine. Nivasisha Sunyavadi Pashtathara Siddharane. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Katadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, let's put the material world to one side for a moment and let's dive into Krishna consciousness. Okay, go ahead, Navasachari.
Thank you. This intelligent question is relevant in ways too numerous to describe in detail, and so we answer it in summary. At its heart, the question probes the distinction between the practicing and perfected devotee. As explained previously, activities of the senses in sadhana bhakti are a means to invoke bhava. By contrast, the activities of bhava bhakti are expressions of bhava. The former is a means to attain the goal, the latter is a consequence of having attained it. If the reader bears in mind that sadhana bhakti emulates the activities of transcendental devotion, the difference between the two kinds of activities becomes clear. One is aspiring to awake spiritual emotion, the other is an expression of awakened spiritual emotion. The external activity may appear the same, but the cause is different. Following from this question is another, which helps us clarify the difference between these two types of devotees. How can one distinguish between sadhana bhakti and bhava bhakti? and devotees similar conduct at those two stages of devotion. The distinction between the two kinds of devotion is established by the phrase sadhya bhava, which makes clear that sadhana is that by which bhava is achieved. The general characteristic of a bhava bhakta is that he hides his spiritual emotions. Therefore, because of the similarity in their external conduct, it is difficult for practicing devotees or even for scholars to distinguish between the two kinds of devotees. Even Lord Chaitanya admits that it is difficult to properly identify those in whom love has awakened. He says, Yandra chitte Krishna prema karaye udaya, Tandravakya kriya mudra vigneha na bujhaya. Even the most learned man cannot understand the words, activities, and symptoms of a person situated in love of Godhead. Therefore, only one who is steep in devotion himself will be able to distinguish a practitioner from a transcendentalist. It takes one to know one. When we answer that it is difficult to recognize a Bhava Bhakta by his conduct, the reader may still persist in wanting some clues as to how accomplished Vaishnavas are distinguished from their juniors, and so raise the question. Since the essence of Bhava is spiritual emotion, wouldn't true Bhava Bhakta stop all external activities on the temporal platform and instead internalize them in meditative trance? There is another way of saying that a devotee in whose heart prema has awakened should recluse himself and meditate on Krishna's pastimes. We answer this query as follows.
Let's pause there. Bhava. We'll just pause there. Let's have just press the pause button and see if we can grasp what's being explained here. Any initial questions or reflections? It's an interesting subject because within our movement, we have many, many devotees, I would say, who are at the stage of Bhava. Dare I say, many senior devotees. Yeah. So we have there's a wide spectrum in our ISKCON society of the devotees just beginning, or those who are trying to achieve emotion and love, and those who are on that platform of emotion, of spiritual emotion, bhava, and love. Yeah. But if you see like a group of devotees in a temple room, or how can you tell? Because externally, all devotees, even those advanced, conduct themselves as a neophyte. Yeah. And Nectar Devotion speaks about this, and I think Maharaj probably might speak of it later. It gives 9 symptoms of bhava, which cannot be hidden or cannot be imitated. And that's given there. But Maharaj is not bringing it up right here. So it's an interesting subject. So if you catch the first part is that, we are practicing sadhana to achieve bhava. But by contrast, those who have bhava, what they're doing is spiritually saturated. Yeah, they are relishing devotion to Krishna. All right. And go on. Yeah.
It's internal. What they're realizing is internal. So maybe they externally we see all the same. It's all internal.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Maharaj sometimes describes it as Bhava is a religion of the heart. You know, it's a religion, it's like spiritual emotions. So, in other words, when they sing, they really sing for the Lord. When they chant, then they really chant for the Lord. When they do service, then they really do service for the Lord. We are doing as well, no doubt. and it is spiritual, but it's like the unripe mango. The ripe mango is coming. All right.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Nimai Mata, Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu, just to understand a little more
Yeah, please.
the discussion, Prabhu. Prabhu, I was just thinking, say, Gaurgo, if you think of, because you did mention about many devotees in our movement. I was
Yes,
thinking Gaur Govind Maharaj.
Govind Maharaj, yes.
Yeah. So when he speaks and his classes and they are in a very different level totally. Is it something that you can understand from there, Prabhu?
Yeah.
Yes,
His
sorry to interrupt. Which Maharaj? Sorry, my internet
Govinda
wasn't
Swami
working.
Maharaj. Go Govinda
Govind.
Maharaj.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm sure you would understand what I'm going at. So
Yes,
is it
yes,
something that we can understand, Prabhu? Because otherwise we really don't know what it is, because
yeah,
we don't experience, so we don't know.
yeah. Very good point. Go Govinda Swami Maharaj is a wonderful example of a very extraordinarily advanced devotee. Obvious, obvious to even, well, I could say even to the general devotees.
Yeah.
He's on a stage of ecstatic love, minimal bhava. As Nimai Mata's pointing out, I was watching him doing kirtan before class on Nityananda Trayodasi. He's just wild with bhava. Now, keep in mind, that's his particular mood and his particular character and his particular expression of his love for Krishna, which was, I think that was an example which was really needed at the time, that everything can be achieved within an ISKCON society. And that was one of his missions as well, hearing this erroneous statement that you cannot achieve the highest thing in ISKCON. He actually would preach against that. And he would actually delve sometimes into elaborate stories of Gopi Bhava, telling stories of Krishna meeting Radha. Yeah, and he would go into his telling in a very, I was there one time in Coventry where he told this whole pastime where Krishna and Radha gradually, he tells an elaborate pastime where they gradually come together and they meet eye to eye. And the whole room was enthralled with it, like bhava of experiencing that to one degree or another. So he did similar lectures when Satyananda Maharaj was there. So Satyananda Maharaj asked him after, why is quite uncharacteristic, why you this is confidential and you're really theoretic, you're really putting lots into it. And so he asked him, and then Maharaj brought up this point, I want to show that everything is in ISKCON. Yeah. So I say that because what I'm getting at here is that other devotees who are higher stages of bhava, they might not act the same as Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're not highly elevated.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. You say, okay, no one's at the stage of bhava unless they sing like Gaur Govinda Maharaj.
Okay. Yeah.
Unless they're just keep that in mind. Do you remember we read in the Nectar Devotion, like some devotees have a type of heart, a big heart, where even most intense emotions cannot be seen. Yeah, or they will hide it. So just keep that in mind.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Without any doubts, Gaur Govinda Maharaj is no one, the way he left this world was just totally amazing.
Amazing, yeah.
Telling the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, he left the world.
Mm.
Yeah, there was actually YouTube. I think I did mention it was long time ago. I think that time nobody realized it. He was in Mayapur, and that's it.
Yeah,
You remember I mentioned it? Yeah.
I actually watched that video again a couple of weeks ago. There's
Yeah.
one devotee.
Did you really? Okay.
There's one devotee who was looking after Govinda Maharaj when
That's
he
it. Yeah. Yeah. And I think he didn't have a clue what was he going through. His ecstasy, you know.
Yeah, so just keep in mind, it will not be exhibited by everyone in that way.
Yeah.
Quite visual, quite obvious, you know. So other devotees are very advanced. They might not, for good reason, like Prabhupada himself didn't sing like Gauravinda Swami.
No, he didn't.
Prabhupada didn't preach the same as Gauravinda Swami did. Prabhupada did not tell elaborate stories of Radha and Krishna meeting. He did not roar on the Vyasa-san. And so just keep that in mind.
But Murli Prabhu, can I just say something else as well? You know,
Yes.
like now, I mean, we watch this YouTube, things like that, and it's helpful for us to be aware of all those things. I think for devotees like us, you know, as we bring for love for Krishna, you know.
Yeah. And one of the reasons to tell one of the symptoms of highly advanced devotee is that they make many other devotees. Yeah.
Definitely.
And they actually bring others to the path of devotion.
Same level as them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
All right. Did it help?
So Murli Prabhu, don't forget if you.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. And I just wanted to thought of adding, Chiti Shakti Mataji said, our moment, Krishna consciousness is all emotions. It's not sentiments, it's emotions. So I was trying to put them both together to see, whether I understand little, at least or something.
Yeah, love of God is an emotion.
Emotion, yeah. Thank you, Prabhu.
And as let's read on. It describes, is it just emotion or is it activity as well? That we're going to come to.
Okay, thank you.
So, in that discussion, wonderful question. In that discussion, I lost where we are. So, the bottom of page 140, I think. Yeah. So perhaps Kurunamai, Mother, I see your hand there. You can read starting top of page 141, if I'm correct. Yeah.
This question implies that sensual activities performed with the perishable body are material, and the emotions that inspire those acts are what is spiritual. However, this is a misunderstanding. The activities of sadhana are eternal because it is an eternal process, and also because the seed of bhakti in a devotee's heart spiritualizes even those activities. They are not material. At Bhava, those same activities are fully transcendental because they are under the control of internal potency. A suitable example is how an iron rod placed in the fire becomes fiery. Prahlad Maharaj calls the process by which the body and mind have been empowered by spiritual qualities, Bhava Nukrishakya Krita. His full instruction on the matter is, the devotee is then freed from all material contamination because he constantly thinks of the Lord's pastimes, and because his mind and body have been converted to spiritual qualities. Because of the intense devotional service, his ignorance, material consciousness, and all kinds of material desires are completely burned to ashes. This is the stage at which one can achieve the shelter of Lord's lotus feet. Therefore, the answer is that while an advanced devotee may internalize his spiritual emotions and taste them in meditation, expressing those emotions with his limbs and senses is equally spiritual. Indeed, realized authorities generally consider them superior. how expressing devotional activities through the senses is generally superior to meditating upon them is elaborately explained in Brihad Bhagavatam, Mitra, but by the Vaikuntha Dutas. Readers may refer to that invaluable source of knowledge.
Right. Very cool. Sorry, I was just saying, yes, we are. We will be referring to Brihad Bhagavatamrita because they're reading it. Perhaps let's just pause there. Because I was reading this before. So this kind of follows on from that discussion, that little discussion that we just had. So again, so I just read the question. Since the essence of bhava is spiritual emotion, wouldn't a true bhava bhakta stop all external activities? Yeah, and instead internalize them in meditative trance? Yeah. So the answer Maharaj is explaining is no, because their external activities is actually completely spiritual. So he's saying that means one is, if one asks that question, the question implies that sensual activities, external activities performed with the perishable body are material, but they're not. When they're done by such an exalted devotee, they are spiritual. Yeah. He's way Prabhupada, everything Prabhupada did was completely spiritual. He's drinking a glass of water, he's playing the cartels, he's walking, he's eating. Everything was a manifestation of love of Krishna and completely spiritual. He was completely spiritualized. So, because that's a misconception that attainment of spiritual perfection means you sit in a cave somewhere. You just must be tempting today to go away to a cave. And but no, it's full of you could say sensual activities, not in the mundane sense of the term, but the senses are fully engaged in serving Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah. So that's the point that's being addressed here. If you like, you can read a little bit more, Kunumai, because I just cut you off a bit short there. You can just finish this page.
A relevant question and one connected to the prominent verse spoken by Sukadev Goswami, beginning with Vikriditam Vraj Vadubir, may be raised. Can pure bhakti,
may also be raised.
May also be raised. Can pure bhakti really appear as at sadhana or at bhava if lust is still present to varying degrees within the heart? We preface the answer to the important question by confirming that in the neophyte and intermediate stages of practice, lust, the greatest enemy of spiritual life, will be present to some degree in almost every devotee. Although at Ashakti and Bhava, lust from past sinful activities is eradicated. Nonetheless, lust as a result of offenses may still be present. So the question is relevant even to Bhava Bhaktas. Having said that, we answer in this way. Scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam and great authorities like Rupa Goswami elaborately establish that faith is the only qualification for devotion. Therefore, the answer is yes, bhakti is unobstructed by presence of lust. Not only does bhakti appear in the presence of lust, but it also drives lust away. We can consider the following statement of Sukadev Goswami. Anyone who faithfully hears or describes the Lord's playful affairs with young gopis of Vrindavan will attain the Lord's pure devotional service. Thus, he will quickly become sober and conquer lust, the disease of heart.
Okay, perhaps we'll pause there again. Everyone find the what's being brought up here, the question, relevant question, can pure bhakti really appear at sadhana or at bhava if lust is still present to varying degrees within the heart? And this verse, Vikrididam Vajavatubi Tam Te Vishno Shadanvato Nushat Atavanatyaha Bhaktim Param Bhagavati Patilapyakamam Hritrogam Pahanita Acharayana Tira. This verse is been given lots of commentary by our acharyas. And Maharaj himself has spoken and written about this verse extensively. In most of his books, he quotes this verse. And Prabhupada was listening to a lecture this morning, actually. And Prabhupada was referring to this verse. Yeah.
Prabhu, can I ask what is this verse,
Yes,
Prabhu?
please, Nima.
What is the verse, Prabhu? Reference?
Reference, let me just quick look. It's definitely the 10th canto. Let me just 10. It's 10:33:39.
10:33:39. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, Prabhu.
Because Shraddhanvito, there's a certain level of devotional development where this verse applies. In other words, there's a certain level of devotional development where you can hear about, the verse actually translates here, the Lord's playful affairs with the young girls of Vrindavan. There's a certain level of advancement that when you hear and read about that, it will not be an impediment. It will dispel material lust. Right? Now, there's a certain level that if one hasn't achieved that level in Krishna consciousness, if their faith, Shraddhanvita, is not mature enough, when they hear these things, they will become agitated and think of and be reminded of lusty activities in this material world. And Prabhupada says it in the lecture this morning, which my Guru Maharaj quotes from actually, because I recognized it. If that's the case, Prabhupada said, stop it. He said, stop it. One should stop reading. Yeah. Well, you know, use another word, stop it. Don't be a fool. Yeah. So there's a certain level of spiritual attainment that one would have achieved, where you can read these pastimes of Krishna and Raslila and the Gopis, and it's not going to send you in the wrong direction. It's not going to give you the wrong idea. It's just for them. It's for that such devotees. It's just more examples of the wonderful purity of the love between Radha and Krishna. Okay, so anyway, the main point that's spoken about is the way to get rid of lust is to hear about its original, or to hear about it in the adiras, in its pure form. Then you become free from its perverted counterpart in this material world. Yeah. All right, everyone follow that?
Yes.
Trying.
Yeah, me as well. Trying, yeah. Yeah, hrit rogam apihinota charena dira. Dira means sober. Hrit means heart. Rogam means road called lust, I think. Hrit rogam apihinota charena dira. Yeah. Anyway, we can continue reading it. Marge will explain more on this point. Yeah. There has to be a certain level of shraddha that one is hearing. Like Prabhupada, in another lecture, Prabhupada gives the example of, I might have said this before in our Sudha Bhakti Chintamani classes, where there's one man, he's hearing about Radharani, and it reminds him of the barber's wife, who he's having an affair with. So that type of person shouldn't hear about the gopis. And that's what we're describing Sudha Bhakti Chintamani, isn't it? The different levels and who should hear and who shouldn't hear. But, you know, yeah, But Prabhupada's presentation of Krishna's pastime with the gopis is quite a genius in his Krishna book. How he presents it is in such a, which it is innocent actually, that he presents it in such a way that only the most, I could say the most degraded, lusty person can get the wrong idea by reading Krishna book. It's presented in such a wonderful way that it's kind of, most people can actually read the Krishna book and not get the wrong idea. Yeah. That's Prabhupada's genius, Prabhupada's purity and genius in presenting it. But other books,
Definitely.
it's not the same. The books of the Goswamis are quite explicit. So you have to be careful what you're reading. Yeah. Hare Krishna. All right. Any comments on that? Or otherwise we can read on. Let's Chandravali Mother, you have your hand there. You can read 143, beginning once again.
Okay. Once again, faith is established as a qualification for devotional service, which then appears pratilabhya even in the presence of material lust. Indeed, this verse emphasizes that pure faith is the high bringer.
Harbinger. I'm just going to look that in the dictionary. Does anyone know what that means?
No, I don't.
Okay, you continue reading. I'll look in the dictionary.
Okay. Indeed, this verse emphasizes that pure faith is the high bringer of devotion
Harbinger.
infused with love, bhaktim param or prema bhakti, which then systematically eradicates all unwanted things from the heart. The understanding is that bhakti, like Krishna, is independent of material condition. And just as Krishna can appear in a prison, bhakti can appear in an impure heart. Further evidence of this truth, among many others, is the story of Ajamil, another from Krishna's assurances to Uddhava. My dear Uddhav, if my devotee has not fully conquered his senses, he may be harassed by material desires, but because of his unflinching devotion for me, he will not be defeated by sense gratification. With the above concerned allied, a different question follows. Devotees are always curious about the external symptoms of their advancement and often ask the following. Since love is already present in the heart of a devotee, are there any visible indication of its dawning during practice? This topic is addressed at great length in later parts of this book. At present, we offer this condensed answer. Steady transient emotion awakens only at bhav, and so the activities of sadhana bhakti are generally not accompanied by deep emotion, except for those occasions when the Lord bestows his special mercy. But as the devotee's consciousness becomes increasingly spiritualized, faint indicators of spiritual emotions, like the first ray of the sun shining through clouds, makes themselves known in the form of taste and attachment. Ruchi indicates an awakening of desires for Krishna, and Ashakti is Ashakti, a softening of the heart, mind, and intellect. By these qualities, a devotee's heart becomes an indication of and a suitable place for the dawning of bhav. Readers looking for a succinct
Yeah.
and simplified definition of sadhana bhakti may ask, in essence, what is the relationship between sadhana and bhav? To this question, we offer a concise answer. Sadhana bhakti prepares the heart to become a place suitable for the independent appearance of bhav bhakti. While the definition of sadhana bhakti is meant for serious seekers, it may pose questions relating to others, such as sadhana bhakti is defined as a purposeful activity. If acts of sadhana are done unintentionally, like a non-devotee saying Krishna's name in jest, is it sadhana? And does that kind of activities awaken bhav? Scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam addresses the subject of people who perform apparent acts of devotion with no real intention of doing so. We summarize the conclusion of Shastra in this way. Do you want me to read a bit more?
Perhaps we can pause there. There's one more page to read. But
Yeah.
any questions on this? Again, another good points being brought up here. Because I read through this just before the class today, and I've got it here on the slide. I thought this was, well, this was one point here. No, actually, I've got it on the next slide. Here, yeah, that's coming up. Since sadhana bhakti is defined as intention to attain bhava, activities of sadhana when done unintentionally are not sadhana bhakti, but are a kind of bhakti known as bhakti bas, the shadow of bhakti. So, in essence, as a specific type of sadhana that will lead to bhava. Yeah, there's a specific type of sadhana that will just lead somewhere, but not very far. You know, you heard, you've seen people give the example. You've seen that perhaps, I used to have I think we had a hamster when I was young. And we had one of those, it just, one of those rings, it just goes round, runs round and round.
Yeah, yeah, just go
Going
round
round
and
in
round.
circles, but actually not going nowhere. So generally, if you're chronically inattentive, in your sadhana, you ain't going to go very far. You ain't going to go very far. So the more attentive we are, and there's a whole chapter which Maharaj really gets into helping us to what it means to be attentive. There's a whole 1 or 2 chapters about the mind, and it's really wonderful. And that's coming up. That's part of Ekagrata, which is one of the discussions in this book, and it's very important. So if we're inattentive, then it's kind of shadow, and the shadow is not going to get us very far. But slow boat, as Maharaj also, you heard this term slow, a slow boat to China.
Mm.
Inattentive chanting or inattentiveness in general is a slow boat to Bhava. And unfortunately, the material, the present age specifically, it's kind of, we're trained to be inattentive. In one sense, there's so much to distract us that being attentive is a challenge for all of us. It's a challenge that we have to take up, and we have to try our best.
Sorry, Prabhu, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
Prabhu, even our inattentiveness, it all happens because although we think we have faith, we do not have the faith really. Can we say like this, Prabhu? I don't know.
You can perhaps you can elaborate more on.
Yeah, because if we have faith, that means we know, okay, this medicine, it's going to cure us. Okay, total faith. We take medicine with that faith. But are we really, I'm talking about myself, Prabhu, am I really doing that so seriously when I'm chanting? Am I really getting that way? Even we will put a faith on a medicine, but we may not, I don't know, I'm talking about myself. 1 round, 2 round, and after that, okay, something will come up. And so I think this is what I'm failing.
Yeah, generally that's just looking for the tissue. That's generally a healthy state of mind to be in. Is that we're always? It's said that we should never be satisfied with our sadhana. We should never be satisfied with sadhana, but it shouldn't get to the degree that we become depressed or we think we've got no hope.
No hope. No.
That means we're being influenced by the mode of ignorance. We should always have great hope because Krishna is very, very merciful. But that reflection that state of mind, you can read that. That's even in our charis like Norton Das Thakur. Of course, they're showing us. But yeah, we can always. It's a good reflection. It's a good thing to be kind of conscientious of our lack of attention, but not to the degree that we give up. That's very important. You know?
Okay.
And there's some hands raised there. If the hands are up for reading.
Yes, Murli Prabhu, do you want me to start?
I have question, Prabhu. I have question. Can I ask?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, the question is, sadhana bhakti is defined as the intention to attain bhava. Yes, activities of sadhana when done unintentionally. What do you mean saying unintentionally?
It means that it means that unintentionally means you're not paying it. Say you're chanting a japa, and you're thinking of the shopping you've got to do.
Ah, okay.
You know, as inattentive. So like there's a disconnect there.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get the results of the chanting because your mouth is moving and the words are coming out, but your mind is not there.
Yeah.
So that's a shadow. So you're not going to get the result.
Okay.
Get the result of buying the correct stuff when you shop.
Yeah. That's correct. That's
Get the
correct.
result of
Yeah, and sadhana bhakti is everything, not just japa, but getting up in the morning, listening to the lectures. It's everything.
Yes. There's a description of I won't go into detail, but there's a deity worship club which we give.
That's okay. Thank you very much. That's only I wanted to check. Thank you so much.
It describes that cleaning your teeth in the morning is a part of sadhana.
Yes.
It's because you're cleaning your teeth because you're going to come before your deities. You're preparing yourself to come before the Lord. So that's an aspect of sadhana. There's a name for it. Was it the first things you do in the morning? Forget the name for it, but it's all part of sadhana.
Yes, everything is even dressing yourself and washing and tilakas.
Yeah, it's all part of sadhana.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Yeah. So what brings coming up in a chapter when we describe, there's a chapter that's called attentive and inattentive sadhana, and that's coming up. And that might be a slight different presentation of. I've actually did a study on it, and I put it all into slides, with pictures and.
Prabhu, but one more question quickly. For example, when I listen lectures, it's very luxury thing for me. I can't listen lectures sitting and doing nothing. Always I'm working, because in that case I'm doing anything, cleaning, washing, going around, and I'm listening. Sometimes I put notes. If I find something needs attention, I put notes, but I really can't sit and listen. Is it inattentive listening?
Yeah, there's going to be different, I suppose, about there's different levels. I mean, I do the same thing. I'm getting myself ready and I'm listening to Prabhupada lectures and I'm doing this and doing that. It's good to have spiritual sound vibration always there.
Yeah.
It's a good practice to always be hearing. And it's better than not hearing at all. So something is better than nothing, as they say. So no doubt, if we sat down and we listened to the lecture and we took notes, then we're probably going to be more absorbed, and it's going to be more fulfilling for us, But if we're doing our household chores, it's good to be listening to a lecture or to a bhajan rather than the wranglings of the mind. It's good to have, as Vaishya Shekhar says, to keep the sound vibration going.
Yeah.
So it's good, but you should know it's going to be a different experience than if you sit down and listen.
I'll fall asleep. I can't. I can never do it. I never do, for all my life. I always at university I had problems, but because if I sit and listen, I can hear nothing. I remember nothing, zero, complete zero. I remember in my youth when we lived in the temple and morning program, Srimad Bhagavatam, girls were bringing by embroideries, knitting, sewing. All altar room was full of crafts. And in this case, this is how they were listening. Because Prabhupada said for ladies would bet, I can't remember, but I know that everybody told us, and that's why we're doing crafts whilst listening, because ladies' mind works differently than man's. Ladies are multitasking, and that's for sure. When I do crafts by listening, anything, knitting, or I hear and I remember better. If I have nothing to do with my hands, I can't remember anything. Even sometimes I have to ask, sorry, what we're talking about? You know, this is like, this is my...
Yeah. So, but there should be some part, there should be like for your japa, that should be exclusive attention.
No, japa, no, japa is different.
Yeah,
Japa
but that's good. There should be some time in a day where you're giving exclusive attention to hearing and chanting. That will be good. That's a good practice that you should, which you are doing. So it's good to have something there where you're trying, like you're seriously endeavoring to keep your mind fixed on the sound, you know?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, but thank you for bringing, I'm sure everyone can relate to the point Jamavati Mother's.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah. All right. So we will finish this chapter. Let's just finish this page. I see Sunita Priya, she has a hand there. You can just take us to the end of this chapter, which is not much, in fact, the beginning of the next one. Are you still with us, Sunita Priya?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I didn't hear you because my internet's going funny. Okay, is it since sadhana bhakti is defined? Yeah, okay. As intentional to attend bhava activities of sadhana, when done unintentionally, are not sadhana bhakti, but are a kind of bhakti known as bhakti abhasa and the shadow of bhakti. Although the performances of bhakti abhasa may even feel a shadow of ecstasy, Rupa Goswami opines that their activities cannot lead to real bhava. The value of such bhakti is that it may eventually lead to real sadhana. While the definition of sadhana bhakti makes clear its relationship with bhava, it does not set out certain details for the fruiting of bhava. Thus, a reader may ask, what is bhava? By way of answer, we suggest that the following three should be given us consideration. First, one must actually receive the seed of devotional, and that through the disciple succession. Next, sadhana must be based on the definition of a pure devotion given in the verse beginning with Anubir Halsti Sanyam. This means sadhana undertaken with desire for enjoyment or for liberation, or sadhana improperly performed will not result in bhava. Lastly, sadhana bhakti should be explicit under the guidance of realized spiritual master. And a final question is, how and why does bhava finally make its appearance? Dear readers, this is the subject of the next chapter, and so we shall now conclude our question and answer. We hope that your concerns on the definition of sadhana bhakti have been analyzed.
Right. Okay. So very nice, sir.
Thank you.
So I hope all readers there, all of you here, we all have some quite thorough understanding now of what is sadhana actually. Marge gives at the end, condensed, the specific type of sadhana is Anya Bilasta Sunyam, Gana Kamani Navritam, Anu Kumrina, Krishna no, Silanam Bhakti Uttama, that's the Paribhasha Shuddha, the main verse of the Nectar Devotion. Should be done without material motive, you know, free from desires for fruitive results, free from speculation, and free from conception of Mayavadi. That's pure devotional service, okay? And must be under, interesting, the first and the third are quite similar. One must actually receive the seed of devotion. So we've been given a seed of pure devotion through the Guru Parampara, yeah. And that should everything should be done under the guidance of the spiritual master. Then your path is clear to Bhava, yeah. Path is clear if those are in place. And then the next chapter is going to be how Bhava actually makes its appearance. You know? All right. So are you all ready? Are you all ready for the appearance of Bhava?
Yes, we certainly are.
Any sense of the term? Yeah, I mean, this is what we should be doing at sadhana. We're just getting ourselves ready to receive mercy. Yeah. We should be, yeah, just like someone who is in prison. You know, if they want a pardon or they want to get released a bit early, then they got to behave in a certain way in the prison. You know, it's got to be all very pucker. You know, you can't hit anyone. They can't hit anyone over the head with a cup. They got to do everything nicely. So saying this is what really sadhana, in one sense, is about: doing everything with attention, doing everything nicely, not of making all efforts not to offend the holy name, not to offend Vaishnavas, you know, and to do activities that we can invoke Bhava, we can invoke the mercy of the devotees and Krishna. And we don't want to say anything that will put an impediment in that path. We don't want to do anything that will put an impediment on that path. You're very, very careful. Yeah, just getting ourselves. It means the more we're careful, the more we're getting ourselves ready for this bhav, which is already there, as we've been discussing. What's the verse? It's there, but it's a bit covered up now. So, you know, like that.
This really explains nicely, since sadhana bhakti is defined as the intention to attain bhava.
Yeah, activities and when done unintentionally are not sadhana bhakti. It's not actually sadhana.
Yeah.
It's not in the strict sense of term. It's an abhas. But Maharaj does say he's a bit charitable. He said that eventually that type bhakti abhas, if you keep doing bhakti abhas, then at some point you actually will bring you to real sadhana. You think you're doing sadhana, but you're not. It's an abhas. If you keep doing it, eventually at some point you might do sadhana. Actually, you might do sadhana.
Chanting, you're going to keep chanting, and eventually you will concentrate and you chant
properly. Yeah, eventually, yeah. I remember Purnachandra told us one time, he was saying that if you keep chanting, then the holy name will win.
Yes.
Eventually. The holy name will win over your mind. You just got to be relentless.
You know? Krishna might feel sorry for us one day.
Sorry, I missed that. I didn't hear.
I said Krishna might feel sorry for us one day. Would you say?
Yeah. The Vaishnavas. All right, let's time check. We've got 54 minutes. Let's have a little peek into this chapter, shall we? Read a page or so and see. Anupama, she has her hand raised there. You can read. The appearance
of Hare Krishna. Chapter 9, Appearance of Bhava. By way of introduction to this topic, let us recall that devotional service in practice is of two types, regulated and spontaneous. These divisions are based on the nature of a devotee's inner impetus for service. If the impetus is based on the directions of scripture and guru, the service is regulated. And if the impetus is due to unnatural attraction to follow Krishna's associates, the service is spontaneous. After passing to the stages of ruchi and asakti, both these kinds of bhakti give rise to bhav. Rup Goswami explains, bhav arising from absorption in sadhana will be discussed first. Bhav arising from sadhana has two types, arising from Vedayi sadhana and arising from Raganuga sadhana. Absorption in sadhana, nishta, produces ruchi, then asakti, and then rati or bhav for the Lord. Acharya said that bhav arising from regulate service is somewhat weaker than that arising from spontaneous service. The reason is that for a regulated devotee, the dearth of natural attraction somewhat weakens the transition to bhav, spontaneity itself. Nonetheless, once transcendence is attained, the joy of devotion compensates for whatever initial disparity may be there, as confirmed by Krishna himself when he says, Yoga kesmam vahema aham. I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. The praise is an important assurance to both types of devotees who in their own way worship Krishna with love. Devotees who have attained ecstatic love for Krishna will not fall short in any way, as the full verse suggests. But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. Having introduced the two kinds of sadhana from which bhav awakens, let us respond to the final question of the previous chapter, which asks for further elaboration on the actual awakening of bhav. The question was, how and why does bhav make its appearance? As we delve into the truths of bhav, we find that two questions are so intertwined that they are answered simultaneously. If you have to answer them in brief, we would say, bhav appears by the grace of Krishna in a heart that has been purified and made eager for perfection by pure sadhana bhakti. That said, to further clarify the answer, let us enter a more in-depth analysis of ecstatic devotional service gleaned from scriptures and acharyas. Having done so, we can give a more comprehensive answer to the questions posed. We begin by reminding the reader of a well-established principle of bhaktiya, sanjatya bhaktiya, and so we know that bhava bhakti must be occasioned by bhakti itself. However, while sadhana bhakti has the potential to awaken bhav, nowhere is it said that sadhana is the cause of bhav. Indeed, statements that say bhav is awakened by the mercy of devotees or by the mercies of Krishna further indicate that the awakening process is not exclusively a function of practice. Sadhana bhakti qualifies a devotee for the awakening of bhav, and so in a very general way it is said to awaken it. But if we are to be specific, there must be some other form of bhakti that is the actual cause of the awakening of bhav. Since the only form of devotion other than bhav bhakti is sadhana bhakti, which has been eliminated as the actual cause of bhav, the logical conclusion is that bhav bhakti is the cause for its existence and for its awakening.
Perhaps we'll stop there. So we'll just pause and stop there. About a minute or two left. Okay, we're ready for onward discussion on this. Any final comments or questions here?
I have a comment, if
Yeah,
I may.
please.
So one thing that stuck to me today is when somebody read that if Krishna can appear in a prison house, then Bhava can appear in an impure heart. Really stuck a chord with me. Stroke.
Yeah. Who is speaking? Excuse me. Excuse my ignorance.
Gaia.
Okay. Yeah, that should give us great hope that we can actually we can execute or we can engage in pure devotional service despite the state of our heart. Yeah, that's also mentioned in the Sudha Bhakti Chintamani. Yeah, but of course it will further developed like the unripe mango and the ripe mango, but pure devotional service is everyone's prerogative. We just have to be educated in what it actually is. You know? Yeah, good point. Yeah. All right. So perhaps we're paused there for a week. You're gonna have to wait till next week before you experience Bhava. Okay. And what we'll do is, and I've run out of slides, you see. Next one's blank. I've got to put some more slides in for all you to see. So I need to work on that. You've caught up with all my slides. Slides here, and I've now got to do some more. I have to type this out because I don't have a soft copy of this, so it takes me a bit of time. But anyway, it's good. I like doing it. It helps me to study it more. All right. So thank you everyone for joining us for this wonderful discussion on the wonderful science.
Thank you, Murli Prabhu. His Grace Murli Prabhu.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Haribol, everyone with the white screen. Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Haribol.
Haribol.
I'm going to end meeting for all. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Haribol.